Hey, this is Laszlo from moonmap.com. First of all, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Today I'm just going to give you a little short webcast that is explaining you about the ITB band syndromes. We just finished a project with Jørgen Kommune where some of our clients had this issue. So I just want to share how simple an ITB band syndromes can be rehabilitated. But it is very important to understand this is just one example. Of course, there can be many other examples, but this is just an example that is not always so difficult to get rid of your issues with injuries. So I'm going to use myself as an example. As you can see, I have some kinesio tape on my right knee, and it's because I had this ITB band syndrome. So still that I'm a movement expert, I can also get the problems because there is tissue with too much use will of course break down, and that's no matter who you are. So this autumn I had a lot of soccer. I was playing outdoor, indoor soccer at the same time, and also working with my strength and conditioning training, and of course I was a talent coach with the youth players, where I also was running around with these kids, and it was just too much. So the thing is, when you're having an ITB band syndrome, many times if you go to a physical therapist or whatever you go to, they will just give you some shock waves, they will give you some stretches, they will ask you to do some strength training, you have to strengthen your knee. They will give you kinesio tape, they will give you massage. I'm not telling you these things is bad at all, because like you see I use this. I'm also using shock waves because it's important for me to get rid of the inflammatory areas as fast as possible, and these general rehabilitation methods is important for that. But the thing is that there's a reason why I get my issues, and I get my issues because there's something wrong in my functional biomechanics. So with this little webcast, I'm just going to give you a short introduction of how I work with my clients and how I, in an easy way, try to identify what the causes are, and not just only focusing on the symptoms. Because if you was only focusing on the symptoms, I think the life will be a little too easy. And if you also could just follow a protocol, why go 3 years to an education place? Because then you can just open the door and open the book and just follow these protocols. So the body is not so simple. You can say ITB band syndrome, you can have an ITB band syndrome that causes that probably your left shoulder is too restricted, and that way you will not be able to load your upper body properly related to the knee, and that way there will be an overuse because it has to do all the work. But I'm not going to talk about this today. I'm going to use myself an example. So I'm a soccer player. I have a lot of problems when I'm running straight out. Also when I'm doing my change of direction, this is where I get my issues. So actually the pattern of where I get my issues is when I'm running. So a good start is to understand running, is to understand the biomechanics of the running. Because if you don't understand the biomechanics of the running, it's very difficult for you to understand how to, first of all, create a 3D screening system, but also in that way to find out why you get your issues. So a good start would always be, if you have this extensive extensive interest, I will give you advice to read this book, Basic Biomechanics of a Musculoskeletal System, from Norton and Frank. It's a really good book that really explain the biomechanics of all the joints. So it's just an advice if you have that interest. So another thing I just want to like to talk about is also like we talked about in the rehabilitation, that you have problems because one muscle is too weak. It's not so easy. We have been looking at some studies on the University of Aalborg doing our project with the functional performance system for soccer, that a functional rehabilitation protocol should be that you're first focusing on stability and mobility training, because without mobility, stability in the body at all. You will just be lying dead on the body, on the floor. You won't be able to move anywhere. So this is the first thing you need to work with. You need to work with your mobility stability, and after that you can go and work with the strength training and slowly work with the cardiovascular training. So for me right now it's just like 5 to 10 minutes run, and then see how much pain I have, like 4 hours after my training, and then 1 day after my training. So this is a good protocol, and then from that we can go in the more in the power period. Next period will be the power period, where we are working with more when we're increasing the weight on the barbells or the dumbbells. And then we will hopefully end out with the normal training that for me is soccer training, where I can do whatever I want on the pitch, and of course play games without any pain. So the total body screening is built up like that we for each activity we work with. For example here, I'll just give you a little example of the running. We will look at the running biomechanics. We are using the science that is used, that is made on the specific task that we're working with or activity, and after that we are analyzing what should the foot do, and up to the hip and up to the shoulder and up to the neck. It's just the way we work, and now from that we can create a pretty precise screening system that is adapted to that sport. In movement map you will never get the same screening system, because again, if you could do that, the life will be too easy. It's impossible. You need to adapt your screening system out from the purpose, or out from the task that you work with. It's so simple. Okay, so the screening system is built for this, that you have one exercise. It can be a chest exercise for the ankle, and if you have a big asymmetries, there will be some related exercises. Because the science also shows us asymmetries in biomechanics, first of all, can give a reduction in the performance, but second of all, increases the risk of injuries. For example, if you sit too much, you will get a big asymmetry, because your hip flexors will be tightened together the whole day, and the hamstrings also. And many times you also get this kyphotic posture of your upper body, because you're sitting like this and the chest musculature will be too tightened. And in that way you will lose your functional biomechanics, and you will lose the symmetry in your biomechanics. So I know exactly why I get my ITB band syndromes, and that's probably also why I'm able to rehab myself in probably only 1 or 2 weeks, because if you know the right stretches, you also know how to give yourself the right conditions when you're going out to your activity. So like I told you, I get my problems in my running, and first of all we know that when I'm running, my foot is probably hitting the ground. What else should be hitting the ground? If you look at the biomechanics, the science of the biomechanics of the foot, when the foot hits the ground, the calcaneus will fall in. If the right things happen, the calcaneus should fall in. We should have a dorsiflexion, and we should have a relative interrotation. We get the relative interrotation of the ankle joint because we have this bone on top of this bone down here called calcaneus, called talus, in top of calcaneus, that's dropped in, and then in the top we have femoral tibia, and then femur will then have a relative interrotation, and that way we can get the hips activated in 3 plans of motion. But if that not occurs, this will not happen. So it's really important that we have a very good foot mobility, and a very good foot mobility that give us these conditions, because also from science we know musculature is activated by lengthening. And this is the way that we use the musculature, is by dynamic work in all 3 plans of motion. So if we have some plans that is limited, we can probably only activate them in 1 or 2 plans of motion, and then they have to do the work for the last missing plan, and over time of course that will lead to a breakdown, especially if you have a big training load in your daily day. So very easy to test my ankle mobility. I know if I have a lack of dorsiflexion, I also have a lack of eversion, because I need this dorsiflexion to be able to get a good eversion, And if I don't have a good eversion, I will not get a good internal rotation, because without eversion, my talus will not drop down on the calcaneus. So it's pretty simple. It's not so much rocket science in that. So we go over here, I can test it out. Whoa, only 5 centimeters dorsiflexion, not very well. Do the same. See how much it goes, see much easier, much more smooth dorsiflexion. The way I can just give you a quick thing what I do, just to facilitate my dorsal flexion. I actually use 5 millimeters heel lift in my right shoe, because when I'm lifting a little, it's easy for me to get that dorsal flexion. So it also means that I'm manipulating in the environment. So when I'm doing my repetitions in my day-to-day, I will still facilitate this dorsiflexion. Because the exercise that I do, they will not last forever. I'm only using my exercises in the morning when I'm standing up before my activity, and that's normally how I do it, because when I'm just walking around normally, you can say my body is not so stressed by mechanically, and that's just an example of how I manipulate the stuff. But just an example here, I see here that my right ankle is pretty bad. So a good exercise for this can be to stand up of a wall like this, go a little in front with my right foot and my left foot here to number 6. I have my right foot in number 7, and then I can just swing my hip from side to side. It's very important when I'm limited in my sagittal plan or the forward and backwards plan that I never start there. You should never stress up your weak points in the body. Many times I'm actually not even go through that plan, because if I can get more movement through my frontal plan or my transverse plan, I will get more movement through my sagittal plan. I normally do 10 times each side, and then I just swing from side to side. Also, when we are doing exercises for people, I'm just recommended to give them 3, maximum 4 exercises, because they will not do it. But also, if you see these exercises here, it's actually pretty global. I'm actually also working my scapula, my scapula as my shoulder, because that I'm pre-positioning my hands on the wall. So now I just did movement through my frontal plan, my sagittal plan, my transverse plan. Let's see if I got more movement here. See, now I got to 10 centimeters. So I just increased 5 centimeters. So actually I have almost the symmetries here. I still have a little more, but I can feel it's easier. And probably if I now went through my sagittal plan, I can just do some small reaches to number 5, from 6 to 5. A good thing also with stretching, because stretching is also like, it's a little unknown area, but we think that if you look at the science, that you just get more, the body is able to handle the pain more, and that's why they think you get more movement. But we get more motion by doing stretching. So stretching is important, because without any ableness to move, I got a little more, but not much, just a centimeter. So I'm very close to get the same range of motion in my right foot as in my left foot, and you can say the conditions then to get this hip activated properly is much better. Because the thing is, if I'm not able to fall in with my right foot, you can see my knee is connected to my foot and it's connected to my hip. So that means that it's pretty cut in the middle. It's actually cut in the middle. So it's just moving my foot. So if my foot is not able to fall in, my knee will not be able to go into that relatively abduction. And that means that if my knee is not able to go into that relative abduction, I'm not able to do this, and I get this relative adduction of my hip. And what is happening if I'm not able to get this relative adduction of my hip? Because what is happening when I'm doing, for example, I'm standing with my right foot here in 6 and go to 7, I'm lengthening my ITB band. So that means if I'm not able to, through an adduction, is able to lengthen my ATB band doing the function, doing my activity, over time it will be tightened up, and it will just be very, very tough for these ligaments down here, because they will just be like, it will lose the range of motion. So it have to decelerate the forces over a very short distance, and then over time, of course, it will give me a breakdown. So it's very important example to see that, okay, I got my ITB band symptoms. Many times we'll just go up here, oh, it's just do some stretching here and then it will be good. No, it will never be good, because this is the issue. My foot is my issue, and that's the problem. And probably also because I have a lot of ankle sprains. And we see with athletes with a lot of ankle sprains, their foot is getting very stiff. So it's pretty tough, especially with men, to work with these kind of feet. So that is, in my case, the problem why I got the ITB band syndrome. And you can also see, if you look at my relatively here, my abduction here, boink. I got here 20 centimeters, and I'm going on the other side here. So I got around 12 centimeters. By doing a little easy stretch, because of course I have to stretch it, because it's tight, and it's tight because I have not been used for many years, because I didn't have that knowledge. So that's pretty simple. Then I know to go here and go forward and backwards. Like we talked about, I will never attack the fungal plan, because you should be very careful to attack the weakness in your body. Because if you attack the weakness in your body, you will be stretched up. Sorry, my English can be a little difficult sometimes. And then from there I go with my rotation. I normally count to 10. It's not the best counting right now, but let's do as good as I can. 3, 2, 1, there. So I'm actually pre-positioning myself by having this uncommon lateral lunge. So let's see if I got a little bit of movement distance here. Boink, here. So now it's actually easier. I can also feel this easier, but you can also see my foot here. It's everting a much better. So from there I got my mobility. I of course need some stability. So the stability is just a toe touch balance reach. So I'm just going from C to 8. Here 3 or sorry. Now we go 10 times. This is for my ankle, going from side to side. And then I go here, some small rotation. Just to see also how the knee is like working together with the foot. So when I'm getting a nice movement in the foot, I'm of course getting a little rotation. So if you ever hear that the knee should not rotate, so for example, I see videos from some people, you go up and you jump up on a step like this, the knee have to be straight out. No. If your knee is straight out, you will never get activated this. Go to your science, go to your studies, you will understand when you jump up or you fall down, the knee should fall a little in the relative abduction, flexion, intra-rotation. It's very important to understand. But it's of course, if you do too much, it will be a big problem for the meniscus, or for the ligaments, on the sides, for probably the PCL, ACL. So it's also, if you drink too much wine, you will get drunk. But limited of wine is good. So it's actually the same concept. So be very, very careful to believe that when your foot collapse, that you have to cheese it to be straight over the toe, because that is absolutely wrong. All kind of science done on functional biomechanics tell us have to be some rotation. So done with this little explanation, just for a little for my for stability of my abductors. I like to do this a little read. So I'm going to, I start here and then I go to see if I can see if I can control my body, because now my abductors have to decelerate all the forces to the right. So this is the abductors that have to decelerate. So you can see when I'm going here, if I'm not able to control my balance, it's probably because the stability in my abductors is not pretty well trained. It's still not very well trained. So I go from 8 to 5, 8 to 5, And then over time, when we get very good, you can do these movements much quicker. So it also means that the strength and conditioning training is pretty easy, because a lot of these movements is just about putting in some handles. You can just put in some handles, go different kind of ways. And also here we can go from, for example, you go here and there, but also by having these nice clubs. I like these clubs also. You can stay one to the side. You're just swinging the mass and momentum, and here you can really increase it. And you will see if I'm not able to have good mobility through my abductors, I will lose my balance. But it's good to have a lot of mobility. But if you don't have any stability, the knee will be very problematic for the knee. So this was a little long video, but I hope you think it was a little interesting about the way we are thinking. It's very important to understand everything we do in Movement Map is based on peer-reviewed science. So this is also very important you understand that all the stuff we do is proved by professors from the University of Aalborg with the expertise of functional biomechanics, or the biomechanics in general. So in that way knows that the stuff that we deliver to you people is top quality. Just my projects, I have to go to examinations to defend the stuff I do all the time, and that means that I am 100% sure that the things I'm telling you guys, the informations I give you guys, it's right information. You can be 100% sure if you're using our information to your clients, it's not pseudoscience, it's pure science, and we can always give you the links to the literature that we are using. So I just want to say thank you for listening to this little video, and we are having some pretty cool projects during 2016, and it's just about, if you want to learn more about it, hear more about it, you can just follow us on our Facebook, and now we're also trying to be a little more active on the blog, so in that way can learn more about the things we're doing. And the last thing we are doing is that we are doing a science page where you can go in and then you can get you can read about the stuff we already have been doing, and you can also of course following the stuff we are doing. But if you are interested, we will of course be happy to send you the stuff we're doing, the full reports, so you can in that way get some higher knowledge about the whole background on the way we think. Because for us, it's not about hiding anything. We just want to share this knowledge with as many people as possible, so in that way can change as many people's life in the world as we can. This is the purpose of Movement Map. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I wish you still a Merry Christmas and of course a Happy New Year. Thank you.